A listener production.
G'day, it's Rusty here, all set for part 2 of my podcast with long-time MotoGP mechanic Alex Briggs. If you haven't done lap 1 yet, part 1, make sure you head back to the library and give it a listen. From his early years in Canberra on buses to working with Aussie motocross legend Craig Dack, a nightclub incident in Europe after one of the 500cc races and how the hell they got out of there, Mick Doohan versus his countryman and friend Daryl Beattie, and much, much more. We begin part 2 with the pre-race ritual for Mick Doohan and being around him as he got in the zone before the start of a GP.
My memories of Mick are more focused, like, just could drill a hole through you with his eyes just before, like he was more like it felt to me like a boxer getting ready for a fight with Mick.
Wow.
Like he was kind of pumped up. And sometimes he wouldn't go so good. And I think whether he knows he did it or doesn't know it, I think he'd pick a fight with Dickie often.
Really?
About nothing.
Crazy. Dickie now works for him.
And they probably still fight, but they're mates, But I mean, I'm talking just a fight as in, I don't know, just something stupid,
Like argue about something. Like
something.
What would you know? Or
Kind of, just something. And I think because Dickie would bite back because he's his mate and he wasn't scared, and, so. And so they'd have it, and I think it would get Mick almost G'd up, sometimes when Mick didn't sort of have the feeling for it. But mostly Mick could motivate himself and would motivate all of us because his desire to win is something.
Yeah. He carries a lot of that into business today. I think he's simmered. Right. Life has chilled a bit more, but I think that trait in him is he still has that deep down. MotoGP at the on race day and things like that, as you talked before, it's a show, so it attracts all these people. It wasn't uncommon at Laguna Seca to see a Brad Pitt, a Matt LeBlanc, or any of those guys rock up, and no doubt you got to meet a few in your time. Were there? And they don't have to be Hollywood people; they could be industry people. I don't know, but were there a couple that came to the garage that you were really impressed with, that you thought were, proper enthusiasts or right into it? Who were some that sort of stood out when they came by that were good to you?
All the people that pretty much have come in like that, like you're talking about, like Brad Pitt and Matt. And I remember calling him Joey by mistake one time.
Did you?
He goes, don't worry. He goes, even my mum does it. So,
that's awesome.
I don't know. You're probably taking the piss. But anyway, we sort of got on. I saw him over several years, and he was always just they're always keen on the bike, They were just and I think because we had been used to working for somebody famous, we weren't in their face like that. They were interested in the motorbike, and we were interested in helping them learn about it. So almost all the famous people that have come in have been really. They'd almost stand off a bit and go, "Oh, I don't want to get in your way." And go, "No, it's fine," Roger Federer, I remember him coming in and just going, "I don't want to get in the way," and he was like a super nice guy, I remember, what's the fella from Dire Straits?
Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, so Mark, said that someone will just be swearing at me now going, "You idiot." Anyway, so Mark Knopfler comes in the garage in Donington Park, and he's talking with Valentino, and Valentino's a big fan, and they're talking and talking. And I think Mark Knopfler had broken his arm or something, maybe fell off a ladder or something like that. I don't know, he couldn't play, and they were talking about there were sorts. But Valentino nearly missed the light to go out to the race because they were just talking, and we were like, "Come on, mate, you can't go." But I'm hopeless too. I've sat next to the famous people and I don't know who they are. Yeah. My wife goes, "You an idiot," and I've asked them the dumbest questions, some of these people, but it's great, but mainly, I mean, they come into the garage because of the famous people that I've worked for, and so you get to meet them and nearly like everyone else, they're just the same as. They just like motorbikes and stuff.
We'll get to Valentino shortly, but you've brought up your lovely wife, Ellen.
Yeah.
Very talented, stand-up comedian. As you and I talk, she's about to venture off to the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet? Did she always have that comedy sort of streak in her? And you have been a bit of subject matter for some of her routines. Have you not? Has she done stuff about you? I think she has.
I joke if it wasn't for me, she'd
have no material.
She'd have no material. I mean, that's just me joking, and it's one of my jokes, and it's crap. I'm not the guy that makes money out of telling a funny story.
Anyway, we'd been to this party, we're driving home, and I was feeling a little bit tired. And I said to him, honey, tonight I want to try something a little bit kinky. And don't you blokes love it when we say kinky? Or in his case, even different, right? I'll give you the tip. We like same and quick. Truly. I see those banners, do you want longer lasting sex? Oh, no. I've got things to do. School lunches to make, I've been doing that all day. Anyway.
So I met her, actually, the first time I ever laid eyes on her, I think was at a party, and she was telling a story in the party.
Yeah.
Like
in Australia, in Canberra?
In Canberra, yeah. So it was at a friend's birthday, and she was just surrounded by people telling a story. She worked at the government at that time for...
Kim Beazley, I think, didn't she, at one point? Or?
I think she might have worked in that department for a while, yeah. So, and then she worked for the Department of Education, or CES, I think it was back then.
Okay.
And one of her jobs, it evolved into, I think this is kind of what gave her the first inkling, really, or she didn't realise it at the time, but her job was to go out later on and talk to groups of people about a new system they've implemented into, like a computer system at the time had come in, and she had to go out to all the regional areas and sit in front of all the people that had come in and teach them the new system, the computer system. But, I'm talking boring whiteboard stuff and all that sort of stuff. And I think the public speaking then, and soon realising that being funny helps people learn, is probably what kicked it off before she really knew it, And then we moved up here because she had a payout from the government. We had friends up here. This is northern New South Wales and near Byron Bay. We'd come and visit friends, and we said we should go up there and live. And I didn't matter where I lived. So we did. We moved up here, bought a block of land, built a house.
So you made it work in a way that I think is super impressive, mate, because you would spend a lot of your life in Europe or on planes and things like that. I mean, you had young kids when you first moved here. I think they were about 5. They're now 20, the boys, or thereabouts, aren't they?
20, twins.
So, how did you guys do that? Because that's not an easy done when you're miles apart. You're constantly. How many plane flights do you reckon you've done over your years? Do you reckon hundreds?
I mean, it was over in hours. The last, not last year, but the previous year was the highest we
2019. Yeah. What'd you chalk up?
Is it 2019? Yeah. Yeah, last year, no, because we just weren't there and back, right?
Yep.
But the year before that, so it was over 560 hours.
Unbelievable.
In that's plane flight hours, not
in the air, basically.
Yeah, not at the airports and stuff. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
So you can see why they flicked me.
No, they didn't.
Expensive. But but that was just the nature of racing, how it became,
She clearly understood that, and
we've talked about it before. I think in the last sort of 10 years, had we met then, I don't think we would have ended up being together, because the amount of time away and the racing just was different. But when I first started, you kind of had these blocks of, 5 months almost at home.
Crazy.
We had 13 Grand Prix, 13 or 14 the first few years. A few tests, and I'd come back in the middle of it. You'd sort of do like a 2 months and a 3 month stint, and then you're home. It wasn't, it was pretty cruisy, and we'd send letters, and I used to break into phone boxes, and because it was too expensive. We used to have phone cards and all that, but then I figured out how to break into phone boxes.
Hotwire them.
Pretty much, yeah. I had the whole kit. I had this whole thing, yeah. And,
you are MacGyver. You are.
Well, the money part, then the phone boxes are like Fort Knox, right? Because everyone wants to go and steal the money. Yeah. But the electrics underneath it were just like basically a screwdriver, and you're in, a couple of clips, and off you go. And I'll just sit in the bottom of these phone books, because it was also early stages of our relationship. So it'd be like, hour, 2 hour phone
calls
long
from Europe somewhere.
From Europe.
Awesome.
Nothing, man. I'm sure someone at Belgian Telecom were just like freaking out. What is going on here?
How is this happening?
I don't know, but yeah. The story's there too, but there's no point now.
How did the move for everybody, you, Jeremy Burgess and co, to Valentino Rossi happened? Because at the point of Mick's career-ending injury here, Valentino's already a 125 world champion, already a 250 world champion, already this emerging star character of the sport, isn't he? And this is the next big step to the top of the league, to 500cc. How did it come about for you?
Well, basically, I remember being told that next year we're going to have this young kid, Valentino Rossi, going to be riding for us. And I knew him, but I didn't know of him really. I knew what he'd done, but you know, it's almost arrogant of us. Like, we were just like 500 GPs with this thing. The other classes didn't care that much about, you know. I just was only worried about my thing, my rider, you know, who's in front of my rider, who's behind my rider. So, you know, again, when he came, he's just, to me, was just another rider. I didn't really have I don't know, I didn't really know him, you know. Like, I knew he was riding well, and I'd seen a few good races with him and stuff like that, but I wasn't in awe or anything like that. So I think he kind of liked that, you know. I think he liked it from all of us. He was just him, and we were us, and there was no, you know, you started from zero.
You've talked Mick in personality styles. What was he like? Because he was a different athlete again, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and he was and still is just great with us. Like, he's got a infectious kind of personality. I think most people, when they meet him, sort of go, what is it? You know, I think he really captures you somehow, you know. He's smart and he's a nice guy, you know, like...
Did you polish up on a bit of Italian? He can speak English anyway, but did you... No? You didn't try and do any of that stuff?
He'll tell you the story too. Like, so... Almost early on, I bought one of those little Oxford Italian to English books. And I remember going to him, like, in the back of the Honda truck, and saying, mate, I'm going to learn Italian, don't worry, you know. And he's going, yeah, okay. And he still gives me shit today. No joke. He still goes, yeah, I remember. Okay, so I never learned. I mean, everyone always asks me, because you work in basically an English-speaking team, there was no need. If I was the only English speaker in an Italian team, because I know guys that have had to do that, and they all speak Italian perfectly. And, you know, and I wish in some regards I did, because but people ask me, do you speak any other languages? And the answer is always the same. I speak enough to get into a fight and not enough to get out of it.
Okay.
So I can get a beer, I can get a hotel, I can get a feed in most countries. But, you know, no, not fluent.
How different was he to Mick in the way that he went about his racing, perhaps the way that he rode the bike when you looked back on things? Was he massively different? Was there...
His burning desire to win is the same. They're all of them have been the same. But his external, the way he shows it is different. Like Mick, you could see it, that he wanted to win. Valentino, in my opinion, you know, he seemed... Winning was part of it and the most important part, but the enjoying of winning was different, and the enjoyment of the racing.
Yep.
You know, even, I mean, I've seen him get off the bike in his second or third place after an unbelievable race and just beaming from ear to ear.
Because he didn't win. Because he loved the race.
He didn't win it. And I think some of the people in the garage were all like shitting themselves going, oh, no, he's going to be mad, you know. And he gets off and he goes, wow, you know. And you just go, wow, you know, like, that's great. You know, he loved that race. I mean, another lap later he might have been winning it, and I think he knew that, you know, but it just didn't work out then. But the race was great. So
the celebrations that he did at the height of things, post-race or post-title wins, were famous. There always something different, and it sucked you in from the story, the humour, whatever it may have been. Did you get a sense before the race they were going to do something? Did you ever know what it was?
Never knew, never asked.
No way.
Never, ever. Never knew, never ever asked. Not once.
The best.
Sometimes towards the end people would say, this is going to be a good one. And I go, okay. Never asked, never knew that. I remember hearing a one that was that went wrong for them. Like, I think it was I've said it before to an interview with Susie one time, and she asked me about it. It was in Germany, and they got the I don't know, the vicar, you know, like, so they got him there, and they built this fake. I never saw it, but they built this fake bell tower with a bell in it, and they got him like, and they were going to wheel it out on the track, and he was going to ring, because when Valentino wins, apparently they ring the bell in Tavullia, like, you know,
his hometown in Italy.
So they ring this bell, and so they're going, well, we're going to do that at the track. So they built this, I don't know what it's out of, probably paper mache, right? Yeah. And they're wheeling this thing across a gravel trap apparently, and they're ushering the old fella across like, come on, mate, you know. I can kind of see it like an old Pope type. I don't know the guy, right? Yeah. But I can imagine what it's like. They're trying to get this guy out there. And Valentino had been playing the whole race, to be honest, with Sete. Like, he had the race won, but he kind of played with him a bit and let him dice with him. And I think he cocked it up because I think he missed a gear out of the last corner. Yeah. And Sete beat him, you know. I can't remember exactly, like it was a while ago, but I think that's what happened. He missed a gear, got beaten on the line by Sete. And so then this poor old dude's the boys are going, no, he hasn't won, you know, and they're wheeling him back, like, come on, mate. And this guy's just got no idea. So that's kind of the loose story. I never saw the thing, but I would have been. It. Yeah, and I think, there was a couple of others that I knew of afterwards, and that never happened, and it would have been just fantastic, but they didn't happen. But yeah,
2-stroke or 4-stroke, what floats your boat more?
2-stroke.
2-stroke
every day.
Yeah. They were amazing, those things. I mean, I know the world's in racing, the shows evolve, manufacturers have gone down a certain path and so on. I kind of love the fact that people like KTM and others have kept developing 2-strokes, and there's still lots of love in that space. But the 500s were an amazing special machine, weren't they?
I just like them because they're so simple and so much power from something so simple. Although they used to burn a lot of fuel, which is probably, I mean, we were lifting 32 litre fuel tanks onto these bikes. 32 litres for the race. It was like 25 lap race. You know, we've got 32 litres going on there. That's a lot. And now we've got like 20 litre tanks.
Yep. Yeah. So from the move with Valentino goes well. He's successful with Honda, and then around the end of 2003, 2004 comes the chance to jump ship, to go to Yamaha. I know that first race for you is immensely special. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to understand the mechanics of what plays out perhaps politically behind the scenes. The rider, you guys always call them the rider. Yeah. The rider moves first. The press know about the fact that Valentino is off to Yamaha. He wants to keep the core group together, and I think you were you individually kind of caught in? I think JB went first or something or other. What unfolded there? Yeah,
so we knew he was going, and he'd asked if we want to go.
Yep. So you had like a quiet little meeting or kind of thing.
Yeah, but it sort of also got a little bit muddy towards the end. We weren't really sure who we should be talking to. And Bernie had a relationship with Lynn Jarvis in the past because he'd worked for Marlboro Yamaha. Yep. So he was on the phone. I remember being at the exit gate of in Japan on the phone. Bernie was on the phone. We're trying to tee up what's going on, you know, because we'd all decided we want to go.
So this must be Matigi 2003 kind of thing. Would that be right?
Yeah. And then I think the next race was maybe Phillip Island. I think I'd have to look at the calendar, but anyway, so it was only like a few weeks before we actually signed on the dotted line kind of thing. But it kind of went a bit quiet, and we weren't really sure. But we'd all decided we were going. Yep. And we wanted to go, you know. So at that time, Valentino had sort of got a bit disillusioned with Honda a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think he wanted to prove to other people that he could win on something else because the press was probably, you know, on him saying, you know, you're winning because of the bike, you know. And I think Honda, some of the engineers at Honda believed that, you know. They also thought that the bike was so good that anyone could win on it, you know. I think they thought that, and Valentino could feel it. And you know, to a certain degree, I think we all started to feel that way, that it became too easy for them, you know. Mm-hmm. But they sort of forget some of well, they change engineers quite quickly, you know, so all the time at the Japanese companies. But anyway, the rider develops the bike that becomes this bike that they think can win, you know. So basically it's a group that makes this bike that they think is now so good that anyone can win on. So I think that, you know, he wanted to move. We said we're going to, and then it all happened it finally happened at Phillip Island. JB, was it Phillip Island?
I think I mean, you'll figure out which round it is, but something happened. He went first, and met with them, and I think they were hopeful that you guys would
okay.
stay,
So I remember what happened.
Yeah.
Basically, Honda had said, okay, it's contract time. Come into the office and have a meeting. I think it was a bus or something. Anyway, come into the bus and have a meeting. And so JB generally would go first. That was how it's happened for years, right? So JB goes first. They come out and JB has contract under his arm normally and goes, okay, and Alex, you've got to go in there now too. And you negotiate every single year. You argue about value. You might not sign there or then. You might argue for a few months about this or that or hotels or something, right? Always try to squeeze something out of them. And anyway, JB goes and tells them, no, sorry, I'm
off.
I'm not going to be here next year for you guys. Well, okay. So they've just gone, a bit of a shock, you know. Okay, can you tell Alex to come in? I go in there. And I tell them the same thing. And they've just gone, oh, shit. Bernie, you know, and he goes in, the same thing. And so, right, we're all off, you know.
You're off to Yamaha, and what I want to try and blend in here.
You know what? I'm starting to think now, I'm hopeless, right, because it's just so long ago, but we'd actually signed in Phillip Island, I think, and then the last race, I think, was Valencia. Is that right, mate?
Could be.
Jesus Christ, I can't remember. Yeah. I think that's how. So we'd already signed. So when we
to stay with you know, to go to Yamaha.
To go to Yamaha. That happened in Phillip Island. Well, I remember it was what was the name of the hotel?
In Cowes. In Cowes.
Yeah, so basically we went from the track, and unfortunately Dickie wasn't involved in going, and we didn't want to. We were signing these contracts, and we didn't want anyone to know. We didn't want Dickie to know at the time, and it was just it was a bit awful, that, to be honest, that little part. And so somehow we were going to meet at the pub like always, and then decide where to have dinner, right? So anyway, on the way back, Dickie's gone with somebody else, and then we've all pulled into the hotel and switched off the lights in the car park, and then went one by one into Lynn's room. He was there with David Brivio.
Yeah.
And we individually discussed our contracts and what we wanted, and agreed to terms, and then went, okay, you're going next, Gary. And Gary went, and then Bernie and JB was first, and that's how it worked.
All playing out in little Phillip Island, which I love. Yeah. Meantime,
we just didn't want any journalists to know.
Of course.
So nobody had any idea.
That's life. Meantime, your good Kiwi mate, Brent Stevens, is at Yamaha, at a different team. He's kind of weighing up options. And I think, did you guys all say to him, just stay, don't move?
Yeah, so he was thinking about leaving, and he wanted to work with our team because he liked us. And we'd shared a couple of, maybe one or two trips to the airport. I remember one from Magello. Like, we're getting the flight out tonight from Rome, jump in the car with us, me, JB and Brent. So we sort of, we knew each other, and we said, if we need a mechanic, Brent would be great for us. So we'd sort of always kept that rapport, I guess, me, JB and everyone in the team. But it never really came up. But then we were going there, and he wanted to leave, and he was talking to us, and we said, mate, stay where you are, just stay where you are. And we can't say too much, Okay. And then, so what happened was we went there, and he was our manual. So when we went there, Brent switched teams, so he had to tell Carlos, who he was quite good friends with, that he wasn't going to work with him anymore, this Carlos Checker, and then he's going to work for Valentino the following year. But
manual meaning his understanding of the bike and things.
So when you the quickest way to learn a bike, there is no actual manual. Honda's got the closest thing to a manual. It's really just an exploded parts book. But on the 4-stroke, they didn't even have that. But anyway, so you basically learn from another guy, So and he was our manual, and he was a perfect fit for us.
So heading into 2004, the general feeling is bike is not perfect. It'll maybe take a little bit of time. Fundamentally, it's good. Maybe, in a media sense, I think most of the media thought, it'll hopefully work, but it won't happen straight away. He wins on debut in South Africa with you boys. And
how good was that?
Just amazing. And I think you rate that among some of the highest things that you've done.
For me, that was the highest. That was the best race for me. Yeah, everything about that and that whole year, those few years there, that initial years with Yamaha are probably the ones I remember, I guess, the most fondly.
And you're back with Yamaha in a circle, more or less, of life. How you
ended up going back to that factory that I paid to go to almost, paid for a flight on Garuda Air. Christ. Yeah, so there I was. Yeah.
Amazing.
Weird.
You have success with Yamaha there. There are, in Valentino's record books, there are 9 world titles, 7 of them in the Premier class with in a very unique position in the record books with different manufacturers, Honda and Yamaha. There were moments where stuff got away from you guys, which would have been tough. And I immediately think of the year the late Nicky Hayden won the championship and what went down at the final race and things like that. Were you in those, for all the success in those competitive moments when it got away from the rider like that? What went through your minds?
I mean, afterwards, I just felt so horribly sorry for him. Nicky won that championship, but in my mind, it was a championship where we lost. I think we could have won that. I think there was mistakes further in the beginning of the season that should have won us that championship. But it's racing, But I always feel it's like I don't know what it is. I feel for the rider, and not so much for me. I mean, it's not that I don't care if we win the championship or not, but I just want to do that race that day as good as I can for them. I want them to win the championship. It's not my championship to win. I mean, I'm involved, sure, but I always feel for them. Like the following day, I wake up, I'm still getting the same money. No one's talking to me any different. But for them, it's the whole I think we had to do some crock of shit testing the next day when you think then the Japanese just want to test or something, and you just go, man, he doesn't want to test. I think he kind of went into a bit of a depression almost after that.
Really?
Yeah. I think he'll say he slept. I think it was that year. He just stayed in bed for 3 days.
Really?
It just does. Yeah.
Is he different like that? Like part of me, when I've seen him over the years at Phillip Island, I don't know him well enough, but I wonder is he a little bit superstitious? What's he like as a person?
Mate, I mean, people used to ask me when I first started working for him, what's he like? I mean, actually, that's the thing people have asked me my whole life. That's almost the first thing people...
But he's a demigod, mate. You can understand why.
Yeah, but I mean, it happened with Darryl, it happened with Mick, happened with Craig.
What's he like?
No, actually, what they say is, what's he really like? Because they just want you to tell them, I don't know what they want. They just want...
They want you to think he's just a normal bloke
They want that, or they want the opposite. They want, he's a real prick. They want that, or they want, mate, he's the best guy ever. You'd love him, and all the guys I've worked with, I've been really lucky. They are those sorts of guys. So you'd love talking to them. And when you get Mick talking about racing short circuit in the old days with a couple of beers or something, some of the stories are so funny. And Daz has got some great stories, and Valentino, he's got the same. So much fun just listen to. And some of the stories we've made together. When you talk about them, remember when we did this? It's great that we've worked that long. So So he's Valentino is he's one of those guys that you would enjoy going to dinner with, if you saw the real side. But what he's really like, to me, is very similar to what you see. It's just
authentic.
What you see on TV is pretty close to him most of the time. But he's funnier when he's not on TV, and you see more joy from him. The joy from riding at the ranch and that sort of stuff.
You've been there. What's that like? I mean, for people that don't know what we're talking about here in two world terms, Valentino has a dirt track at home, really cool. I think they call it the ranch, don't
exactly,
they?
Yeah.
And it looks like enormous fun.
Oh, mate, it's mega. It's so...
Have you ridden there?
Yeah, a few times. So he loves it. He encourages it. He's always saying, come,
Excellent.
So, so the last few years we've done it around the Misano race.
Yep.
So...
Tavulia's not all that far from Misano. We're talking 10 Ks or something, isn't it?
Half an hour drive from the hotel at the beach to that track, to his sort of place. And the last few years, we used to sort of ride there, and then we'd go to Valentino had built a new house, and we went there for dinner, and it was kind of all really set up. But then the last few years he'd had pizzas at the ranch because he owns a pizza shop. So we had all these pizzas and we've also had barbecues and stuff. Anyway, it's just great. He really puts on a good show for pretty much all of the Yamaha people. He started inviting not just us, everyone in the team. So both sides of the garage, both riders. you know, and whether they take him up or not. But most people turned up because it became a thing. You know, you had to, if you got the opportunity, you should be riding this place, mate.
Very cool.
So it's great. But to see him there is funny, man, because he's especially with us, he's, I don't know what he's really him, you know, like he's and he just loves it. He loves watching us cock up and crash. Yeah, he just gets off on it. Thinks it's the greatest thing. And he tells us the hotline, and I'm always going, mate, because last year you told me this and I forgot. What is it? You know, because you've got to drag the rear brake here and, you know, gas it here. And I'm like, right, okay, right. So then he has a race, you know, and he commentates the race. Like he gets a microphone, kind of like what we've got here.
No way.
Yeah, and they record it. Yeah. And then we watch it while we're having dinner. So he's like, goes, okay. And because he knows everyone on the team, it's really funny. We've got our Japanese spare parts guy, Suchan. He's a good rider and he's fun, you know, and so he'll be on there, Suchan, attack. And so he's full commentating with comedic timing. Like it's gold, man.
Excellent.
It's gold. So he commentates, because he normally has a bit of a ride around with somebody to show everyone how you really do it.
Yeah.
And then we have this race with us, and it's just a bunch of just wood ducks riding around like we think we're just great, you know.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I've made the podium a couple of times, which has been good. Brent's quite good. Brent's very aggressive. Suchan, me and Brent and Luca Catalora one year, but we figure Luca shouldn't really have been in our race because he's an actual racer.
Different class, hey?
But, yeah, well, I think him and Brent went at it that year, and Mayo Merigali's quite good, and so we rub elbows. Lynn's out there. He's has a bit of fun.
Great backstory.
But you think you're like, honestly, you think you're 45 degrees or flat when you're going around the corner, like big drift. You think that. You watch those guys do it, and they're just unbelievable, right? They go from corner to corner, like full flip to the other side, sliding. And I put a straight in between those two corners, you know, like, and I'm leaning over and I see the photos afterwards and I go, oh, God, that's embarrassing, you know. But, you know, my racing background, it still comes back to you and you just want to win. You just don't care. The first corner is it's all on, you know. Anyway.
Something.
So then we watch that over dinner and we just relive it, you know, while we're all having our dinner. And everyone's there by then, you know, his mum and his dad. And, not always his dad. His dad's out there sometimes, but he's a crazy rider.
Love it.
And anyway, it was great fun, really good.
Really cool.
And he gets a big kick out of it.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
it's good
awesome. Somewhere here, social media starts to take off. Your friend, Susie Perry, who works in the media around motorcycle racing and other things, suggests to you should get on Twitter.
Yeah.
And this thing called the Wrench Racer starts. Were you green when you started this thing? What were you thinking? Because it's become a thing. You took people into the world in simple ways. So the road trip to the track every day, the topics of conversation were, and people loved it. So you've developed this following and a kind of brand around it, which is super cool as well. But when you first started, because not everyone takes to social media, what were you like?
I'm just as shit as I am now. I still can't spell, you know. But that's my trademark, you know, the poor spelling. Yeah, so Susie was on Twitter because it was a new thing, and she tries to explain it to me, and I go, no, I don't really get it, you know. So I sign up an account just on, you know, my name. Wrench Racer thing comes later on social media, on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, it all starts from there. So I just started an account and follow Susie and follow 2 or 3 other people, and that's it, you know.
And what did you think? Did you think, I'll do something different to so-and-so, or you just did what you enjoyed?
No, I had zero plan. It was just to understand and to see what Susie was doing. Like, I had no idea, right? And then once I started to understand what it was, I really enjoyed, I had only half a dozen followers, you know, like.
Was it ever tense though? Like, did the team sort of say, oh, hey, mate, don't give too much away?
That happened a few times. I think mostly because they didn't really understand it.
Okay.
It was more like they felt threatened in a way. I don't know what. It was lack of understanding. And I still think to some degree they don't really get it, you know. Anyway, so, I can explain that. But anyway, so it just started snowballing a bit, and I didn't have any plan at all. But basically I just started answering questions and showing people what it was like behind the scenes. Simple stuff. I mean, real simple stuff, you know, garages and
they lapped it up, mate.
Oh, they loved it. But I loved showing it to them. But I remember thinking to myself, because when I was a young motocross rider, when I'd read these magazines, the Motocross Action, I would love learning about stuff, you know. Maybe it was all bullshit, I don't know, but this is how Ricky Johnson trains. This is what John Amara's truck he drives. This is how such and such wires, the lock wires, the grips on the handlebars. This is how they cut holes and, you know, just little stuff, and I'd lap it up. And I just thought, man, there's going to be people out there just like I was.
Totally.
Now waiting for something, and this is they can be in the garage with us, you know, and they can, you know, and also because we were winning, we were popular, you know, it became very easy. Didn't have to explain why we lost mostly. Most of it was just, hey, we won and this is where we are now. And it was all travel. Travel was a big thing for people. Like a lot of there's a big following from the UK and Europe. So I'd show them Australia, you know, I'd show them the farm, you know, animals. And it just and then I invented games for them. And I just loved it. It was great. And anyway, it just spiraled. So from mechanic ended up with like 50-something 1,000 people, you know.
And merchandise and stuff
the merchandise, that too, kind of, that was good fun. And it still is, still goes. And I don't know, it was great.
Okay, I'll try another joke. What's the fastest car in the world? A rental car, because you can drive it the way you want to without having to pay the mechanic's bill.
When I arrived here today, you and Ellen kindly made me a coffee, and you had yours in a little Ducati cup.
Yeah.
So Ducati is a part of this story as well, and we all, for whatever reason, maybe it was, you know, how well Casey had gone there. I mean, Troy Bayless was obviously so successful in World Superbike for them and so on. We thought that chapter for you guys, for Valentino, would yield more. And sadly it didn't. When you look back on that now, I mean, it wasn't for lack of trying on everyone's part there. How do you sort of frame that and compartmentalise it? What do you think about that time now that you spent with them?
I look at it in two ways. I look at it as me, the mechanic. Yep. And then I look at it as Valentino, the rider. So from the rider's point of view, it was horrible. Yep. It was just so disappointing because we all thought we were going to do what we did at Yamaha. And we didn't.
Everyone did.
Yeah. And we didn't because we had that little bit of track record. And so we thought that would happen again. We all expected it. Didn't happen. And so I just felt horribly sorry for him. And he was at the point at one stage of just throwing the towel completely in and sitting out a whole year.
Really?
Yeah. So he was like, well, what are we going to do, you know? Because contracts, he was trying to get out of things, and he was just tied up in stuff that he couldn't get out of. So there was the thought of, well, you know,
I'll sit it out.
I'll just sit it out.
Wow.
So it got pretty depressing for him. From a mechanic's point of view, I learned a great deal. I learned a lot. You know, I learned...
Like what?
Well, you know, what not to do maybe. But, you know, it was great to go from a Japanese team to a European team and see the whole way, the mentality, the way things worked. What was great about Japanese teams, what was poor in the team I was working for. And, you know, when I look back at it, I think, you know, why did we lose and why didn't it get better? And I still look at it now and I think some of those problems we had are still there, still exist for that company. But they did really well with Casey and they did good, you know, but, you know, even Casey towards the end of his time there, I mean, he left there, you know, so I don't think it was ideal towards the end. I don't know. I mean, I only know Casey loosely, but, you know, he stopped winning on it and moved to Honda and won sort of like immediately, you know, like so the bike had sort of perhaps deteriorated from its peak, but, you know, Casey had grown used to it and had rode well. He's a great rider and did well. But it wasn't for us, and definitely that bike was not for everyone else. I think Valentino was more of... I mean, we built bikes at Yamaha and Honda that were capable for anyone to jump on. So once Valentino loved that bike, pretty much anyone could jump on it and go, hey, this is a good bike. You know, Casey built a bike that he could ride well because of how his skill, but other people jumped on it and went, yuck, you know. I don't know why that is. That's just sport.
When they had that moment, we touched on it a little bit before at Laguna Seca. I mean, from a fan point of view, from a television broadcast point of view, epic battle where they're, you know, ducking underneath one another at the corkscrew, and Valentino even goes onto the dirt briefly, kind of thing. It was a magic memories from that. Casey was pretty fired up that day, and he's spoken about it. JB's spoken about it in the podcast. I'm intrigued on your memory of the day, and the reason I ask about it is not to inflame old wounds, but you're all Aussies. Okay, you're playing in different teams, and it's World Championship, it's serious stuff. But as you described before, you're there, to support your rider, and that's Valentino.
Yeah, so I only just spoke about this last week to Troy Herfoss, who I've sort of been involved with a little bit now.
In the Australian Superbike Championship.
Yeah, so it's kind of, he was talking about it too, because it's one of those moments, like in racing, it was that race, it was one of the races, that people all remember. And you still see replays of just that moment, Yeah, so I remember that weekend, basically Casey was going to wipe the floor with us and everybody else. He was killing it. He was miles ahead. It was just, Casey's got this thing in the bag. He's so much faster. And he knew it. We all knew it. And I remember, I think the discussion's gone a little bit, I've heard a few different sides, but I'm only going to tell you what I remember.
I'm only asking your view.
Yeah, so what I remember is come race day, JB and Valentino had figured out a plan, because there's no way we can beat him on outright speed. Casey's faster. His lap times are faster by a lot. We're talking, I can't remember, mate. It was 0.3, 0.4 a second a lap. That's a lot on that little track, right?
Yep.
So he was going to kill us. And so JB, he said, he thinks he's going to win. Everybody else thinks he's going to win. We have to be in front of him because he's not planned for that. He doesn't think that's going to happen. Nobody thinks that's going to happen. He thinks he's going to win from the front, which if you're a betting man, you would have put a lot of money on that, and probably somebody did. So JB and Valentino's plan was get in front of him at all costs, so he cannot do one complete lap alone. Because if he does a complete lap alone, you'll never catch him, right? So it's all over. So the plan was, don't let him do a complete lap. You've just got to get in front at all costs. It's not about getting a good lap time, it's just being in his way, get in front. That was all it was. So, and if you watch the race, that's all Valentino's doing, getting in front of him. He's not trying to race him as in do a better lap time and pull ahead. Just get in front of him, get in front of him, get in front. Just keep doing that, because he's not ready for that. And that was probably some of the desperate moves Valentino did, which are famous, but it was just got to get in front. If he gets that whole main straight ahead of me and another couple of corners, we're toast. So that was just get in front.
Was it awkward with Casey afterwards? I think he came to the garage from memory and stuff.
I think he was going off his head a little bit in park for me. But that just always happens. There's always somebody happy and somebody unhappy. It's just racing, I don't really care too much. It was a great race. I liked the plan, and we did well. Casey lost. Casey was still a great rider, but he just didn't win that race. Yeah, I don't get that upset or excited or either. I always back your rider, especially in front of them, because that's part of your job.
Yep.
But I can see why Casey would be pissed off. Why wouldn't you be pissed off? You were going to win that race. People have been betting on you. It was a shoo-in, but he didn't. And I almost feel disappointed that it ended almost fizzled off into the dirt there. And I thought, oh man, I would have loved him to come back on the track, just run wide instead of end up in the gravel. And, I think he had an awkward fall. It was just shitty. He would have been great. Imagine how good that race would have been if he was
wheel to wheel for.
Well, no, let's say he had to chase the rabbit.
Down, okay.
How good would that have been? That would have been great. And I missed that we didn't see that. The battle to make him make a mistake effectively, or he'll probably say different, shoved, pushed, I don't know, can't really remember. But anyway, it was just a race. He's run off. I would like to see him get back on and chase him down and see what happened, because that was great, But anyway, that's what and we loved it. I loved going to Laguna Seca. It was one of my favourite races.
Great place. Valentino would move back to Yamaha. You guys would go with him. He's in his early 40s now. We sort of crave the memories. We'd love him to be winning races on a regular basis. My question is, he's still so passionate about riding. Clearly you described that before with the ranch, right? Should he stop should he keep going? I mean, people often say, "Oh, mate, he's holding on too long," but I think at the same time, often you meet athletes like him that are incredibly good at what they do and are still loving what they do. So why not?
I've heard this argument for 100. Yeah, I've just heard it 100 times. People talk about it in every sport. I don't know what it is about people, what they want from their sports people. Sometimes they'll say, in any sport, they'll say, he should quit at the top, just walk out of the top. Like, are you crazy? Like, why would you leave when you're at the top of the sport and you love it? Why would you even leave? Like, okay, so this is the peak. Why won't next year be peakier? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? So this is the thing you love the most in the world. You're the best at it on the whole planet. You're the best. And then they go, well, you should walk out now because it'll be great. Great for what? 2 days later, those same people will be going, oh, man, I wish he was still around,
Exactly.
So I just don't get it, And then they say, well, he's taken somebody else's seat. Is he? I mean, people say that about, everybody. I mean, in golf, the golfers they play, they're the peak of their career. And then they go, well, we still love this. They go on to the seniors tour. And they could be the peak of the seniors tour. And there's people that have been playing in golf or motorcycles or any other sport that, what people call a journeyman, So they've been there for 20 years or 10 years, never really made it, but people don't get upset about them. They don't go, man, he should have left at his peak. When he came 10th, like, he loves it. He races. Go race.
Good on him.
If you're better than him, you have a crack at it, So, I don't get it. He's taken somebody else's seat. So what does that mean? Okay, at the end of this year, we're just going to get rid of them all, and all those rookies in the Rookie Cup can just race from next year. No, this is not how it works.
Yeah.
If you love it, people will give you a ride or give you a tennis racket or give you a thing, and if you've got the money, go right, do what you want. Who cares? I couldn't care less.
Your ride in the World Championship, very sadly, has come to an end. You're on a new chapter.
I wouldn't
now.
say very sadly.
No, but I'm interested in the way that you have parked that or dealt with that, because it's not all but it's a massive. It's the biggest part of your life, your adult life that you've spent there. Now, Valentino's gone to a privateer, or not, but a. It's not the factory Yamaha that he's riding this year. As a part of that change, you, Brent, and a lot of the core group that were there, JB, finished up a few years ago. You're not part of that now. So when did you know that you wouldn't be continuing on the tour? And was there an opportunity to go and work for someone else that you explored at all?
Yeah, so...
and how hard was that to come to terms with?
It's not as hard as you think for me. I mean,
really?
I can't say for sure about the other guys, but for me it wasn't horrible or anything like that. So I was disappointed in some regard, but it wasn't like
because you wanted to finish with Valentino.
I would have. I would have liked to finish over there. I'm not sure, but I would have liked to finish Valentino's career with him, because I feel that it's 2-3 years sort of, and probably max, I don't really know. So another 2 years would have been nice. And why would it have been nice? Perhaps just because it would have been a nice story, even for me. I would have enjoyed, okay, he stopped and I stopped, great. But it doesn't really matter. It's racing. It's a strange game, I stopped working I didn't stop when Mick stopped, do you know what I mean? So...
But did others pick up the phone? Have you had
I've had a couple of offers from other people, but none of them were ones that I wanted to take. So some are quite good, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do. I kind of, I've been offered jobs in Australia as a mechanic, again, for race teams, and a couple in Europe. Some for quite good money, and conditions weren't quite as good, so the things that make a big difference now that I'm older and I've got a family, and you come home and you got to you want to see your family and your wife and stuff. So I didn't want to stay in Europe forever, but it wasn't really what I wanted. None of the jobs came up and went, yep, that'd be great. It's just not what I wanted, so I just went, nah, it's not for me.
So you are out on the clothesline. There are some now Aussie race-based shirts that have gone through.
I didn't even notice.
So just tell everyone what you're doing back here now, because it probably has happened a little quicker. I think you half thought you might have year around the farm in some ways, didn't you?
I was more than happy to. So basically, Jerez, Yamaha had called me into the motorhome and told me that I wasn't working. So from Jerez, pandemic Jerez, from there I stayed in Europe for 5 months to think about it. It was 5 months from door to door, from when I left here to when I got home. So I had and I knew about it, after. So 4.5 months, I knew that I wasn't going to be working for the factory team. That's what I knew for sure.
You stop and take pictures or look around racetracks and
we joked about that for every year since JB. But when JB took a photo of anything, we saw us for years. He would just say, "Last year, mate." We'd always talk about that, and I did think about it lots of times. Like a lot of places we'd pass, or it's interesting, the drive from Jerez, like across the farm, the fields. You just go, man, I'm not going to see that again. I mean, maybe, but highly unlikely. So, and that doesn't bother me. It means the fact that I kind of miss it means I liked it. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't really bother me.
So a phone call obviously comes. What are you doing here in Australia now?
Oh, okay. So basically lots of people asked me to work and I didn't really want to do anything. I was happy to do nothing. In fact, the very beginning of the year where we did nothing because of the pandemic, like I've just gone, I kind of like this, I was happy. Anyway, so end of the season, I'm happy to do nothing. And we've talked about money and stuff. We should be okay. Yep, okay, fine, me and Ellen. But Ellen's business had sort of dried up a lot because of stage time. So anyway, we'll be okay. We're fine. And then my mate Dougie rings me. Dougie is the mechanic I worked for with Daryl Beattie in '93.
No way.
So
I know him, but I didn't know that connection. That's amazing.
So in '93, Dougie was already in Europe working for WG, I think.
Okay.
And almost he was in there in anticipation of Daryl coming, because Daryl in Australia, Dougie was Daryl's mechanic, and locally, right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know all the details of that. I should ask Dougie a bit more. But anyway, so he was working and he was in Europe, and then Daryl came to Europe to Rothmans Honda. They wanted to expand the team. That's how I got the job. And Dougie was the guy. He was my manual. So I was his boy. So I'm the young guy, and he's showing me how to do this, how to do that, and we shared rooms, because you share a hotel room. So we shared room for the first year with Doug. So that was kind of, I think, Dougie. Well, not all the time, but anyway, we shared rooms a lot of the time, and so Dougie rings me. Now Dougie, in the meantime, with another guy called Sean Gallagher, who was a racer back in the day, they have built a business in Australia whilst Dougie was away, and now a successful business importing motorcycle parts. So, and they're the importer for motorcycle tyres from Michelin.
It's gas, isn't it? Yeah.
Gas imports. Yeah. So they lots of cool stuff, like Acropovic exhaust pipes, So they're a big deal, and they've got warehouses in, I think, Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne. It's a big show. Anyway, Dougie's rang me up and said, "Hey, look, JB helped me last year. We're introducing Michelin tyres to the Australian Superbikes. JB's going to sort of step away from it. He'd sort of hurt his back and he wasn't really sure if he wants to continue. Do you want to do that?" I go, "Well, what is it, Dougie?" And he explains, and I said, "Look, okay, give me the weekend and I'll think about it." I talked to Ellen, talked to a few friends, and I said, yeah, all right, I'll do it. So it's like 7 races, a few tests, and I've never been to any of the racetracks in Australia other than Phillip Island and Eastern Creek,
Crazy. So Winton was the first time.
Yeah, so off I go to Winton for a test. And I'm just going, where's Winton? Isn't Winton in Queensland? No, Winton's in Ned Kelly country. So off we go down to Winton, and it's just like taking me back to like my motocross days. So the feeling is kind of like a motocross race, but it's road races. And I meet all these people, and I see some of them. They look at me like, "Oh man, that guy's," and they want to talk to me about it, and you can tell that. And I'm clearly more than happy to, but there's a slight barrier, you can feel it. And so when I say hello to them and say, "Oh yeah," and they tell them, and they all just want to know what it was like over there, really. Anyway, so it's great. So I'm helping Dougie, but Dougie says to me, "Okay, don't worry, there won't be really any manual labour. We're going to get a guy to fit the job." So basically the job is to...
You are hands-on, aren't you?
So the job is tyres, Michelin tyres, we're going to introduce them in the Superbike series, and we're going to see if we can get a bit of a foothold and get some more riders. So we've got Troy Herfoss, which is one of the premier riders in Australia, and he's riding. And then we've got three other guys in Superbikes now. At the time, we only had that one when Dougie rings me, and we've got somebody riding in the Supersport. Anyway, so he says, yeah, look, we're going to get somebody to change the tyres, and your job is to sort of collate the information, help with the riders make the choices, see if we can get them to work properly. And because we haven't been to all the tracks, we don't even know all the tracks, what they're going to behave like. And then we're going to send that information back to France, and they're going to help them with the tyres in the future. Right. So there we are. There I am changing tyres straight first day, man. Okay, Dougie, I haven't used a tyre machine like my whole life. What the hell? He goes, no, it's like this, right? So chucking tyres on there and like soaking them up and banging them on and getting stuck and jamming my fingers. Anyway, I'm a professional now.
Good stuff.
Yeah, but anyway, so me and Dougie are slinging tyres on the tyre machines, balancing them the old school way, spinning them and then putting weights on them and cutting them off. And anyway, so we're kind of in at the ground level, and already we're buying things and we're changing this and changing that. And I've explained to some of the riders how it gets done, overseas, because we have a bit more information. So we know these things. We've got to start, if we want to win, we want to do some of these things. So we're starting to do that, and I'm enjoying that,
Good.
And I get home like Monday, no jet lag, at the Gold Coast airport, and it's like an hour drive to my house, and I'm good to go.
Happy days. And Brent has ended up in that paddock too, in a different role with a different team.
Yeah, so it's good to run into Brent and just say stories and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
And here you love golf. You are applying some of your mechanical strengths to golf clubs.
Right.
Just explain that. And typical you, there is, real cool ways that you are helping not only to repair clubs for people that but improve them as well. Almost kind of like a little bit of development, like a bike rider.
Yeah. Well, so golf has become a thing for me. I mean, I had always played golf, right? But it's if you're a golfer, it's a real addiction, So, and I loved it because it's the opposite to everything else I did. You're by yourself. It's not a team sport. You're by yourself. It's quiet, essentially, except for the swearing. And it's on grass.
Does that happen a lot?
Oh, yeah. Especially the blokes I play with. So anyway, and it's on grass, like it's a world away from racing motorcycles around in circles. So I loved it. I just love it. But I like the technical side of it, and I like all the angles and there's a lot in it, but from the outside, I mean, you've talked to Ellen, she just goes, it's the worst sport in the world. She hates it, hates everything about it. The only good thing she said was when the kids used to go and play golf, it's not like soccer where you sit on the sidelines for half an hour and watch them and pretend you're watching. Yeah. She said, golf is 4 hours and they're gone. You can go and do the shopping and come back. It's great. So that's our only positive. Anyway, so I'm addicted to it, and like everything, it turns out I'm better at fixing them than I am at playing. Like, it's exactly the same thing happened to me with motorcycles.
Crazy.
Exactly. And I just got right into it, and so now I kind of did it on the side for myself, and now I've just started a business on the side. On the side, I don't know what you call it on the side. It's just another thing I'm doing, fixing people's golf clubs and building them and modifying them, and I've got all the gear.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit of an idea.
Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, all the gear. Yes.
So I've got all the gear in the workshop, built a nice new bench and got everything going in there. And so most evenings at the moment are spent tinkering on golf clubs for people. So, as everything from just putting grips on to fixing broken bits and pieces and changing. It's great fun. There's a lot in it when you're into it, so it's hard to explain to some. But anyway, I love that. And that'll be a business for me shortly. I'll probably have the website. I'm going to change the logo to one spanner and one golf club. I've already done that.
I love it.
It's going to look pretty cool.
Couple to finish. Firstly, the boys are old enough, more than old enough to drive and are driving. As I came in here today, you told me about there's been a couple of circle work models that one of them might even be buried in the paddock at the front or something. Yeah. And have they hit you up for the dough to buy them? How did that all come to pass? What were they?
No, well, they're always rear-wheel drive, right? So they're Falcons or Commodores. So that's basically it. But mostly they can get Falcons because I don't know what happens to Commodores.
$500 or something. What
pretty much. So they scour Gumtree, and there's about 5 mates, right?
Yeah.
And half of the fun for them is haggling with these people because they don't care. They couldn't care rats, right? Yeah. So they buy these heaps of junk and they drive them here with maybe 1 month's rego or maybe just in the dead of night, you know. Yeah. So they get these cars here and then they drive them around in circles in the paddock until they blow something. And nearly always they blow the gearbox up.
Classic.
More the engine. But there's an engine down there that they cut mufflers. They cut the mufflers straight off them. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, right? Yeah. Okay, so it sounds cool, but the whole valley can hear it. Even in town, people go, those bloody Briggs kids. They can hear them, you know, like their mum with one of the kids goes, oh, you're right, you're driving the cars around today? Yeah, they just basically drive in circles. It's like, I don't know. Remember Happy Days when they used to drive around in circles and smash up Derby and the Malachi Crunch? It's like these guys down there just smashing into each other.
You know what I love? It's just all on private property and they're getting a lot of it out of their system. That's actually that's actually a good thing. One of the boys has got a Corona that he's done up and loves right into that. But you have a couple of things in the garage that we should finish on.
Right.
Firstly, one of them was I think a birthday present for Ellen. Might have been a milestone birthday present. Yeah. Tell us about that.
I'm pretty sure it was this is bad. I couldn't remember if it's the 30th or 40th. I think it's a 40th birthday present.
Yep.
And it's a 1960 Holden FB.
Awesome.
So, and every now and then you see it in some of her clips. They use it now. Sometimes as promos. Hey, like we're driving to such and such, and you know they'll film in. They've done a few things like Ellen's done a few interviews driving in a bit like those sorts of Seinfeld style. Using that old car, it's a great old car, you know.
Very original, white wall tyres. Have you done much to it?
Done really almost nothing to it. I fixed a couple of things like got it running a little bit better and a manifold leak and uni joints and just basic stuff. It's essentially how I bought it. It's good. It's a good car.
And you have in two-wheel terms, there are some two wheels. So you talked about riding before at the ranch and things, but one thing that caught my eye was a Triumph. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's a 1969 Triumph Bonneville. Mm-hmm. So we were driving across Europe, me and Rog, in the Honda truck one day, and we're reading the magazines and the new Triumph Bonnevilles had just come out. Like Triumph had just started and they'd made these new things. Mm-hmm. And they were similar sort of money and we're talking about it. And I said, it'd be good to just buy the original, you know. And 1969 is when I was born. I've gone, it'd be great to buy one of them. So I was looking through these old magazines, Just Bikes magazines. I'm looking, and I find one there. And I ring the guy. This is at the workshop in Belgium, right, in Aalst. We've got some old magazines, and there's one in there. And I ring the guy. It's like, maybe a year old. And he goes, the guy never came and picked it up. He paid me $500 deposit and never picked it up. And it's still there, and I haven't really advertised it again. I said, right, well, I'm coming there for Phillip Island because it was in Melbourne. When I come to Phillip Island, we'll swing by. So I swung by and, perfect. I think I organised Dougie to get it up here to deliver with a shipment of tyres or something up to the
drop Brisbane. It off.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was Dougie actually. No, it was a long time ago anyway. So I was
what state's it in? Do you ride it? Well, tell me a bit more there.
I hardly ride it, but I need to now that I'm going to be home more often. Although,
like JB, you can get your teeth into a project.
Well, except I'm busier than I ever have been. I don't know what's going on, but anyway. So I want to get it going and go for Sunday ride. Me and Ellen have been for a ride a few times, but I've just got like a little, jet black helmet, but Ellen doesn't have one. So we've got like 3 Valentino helmets that he's signed. So the last time we drove it, I said, well, just use one of them. It's got tear-offs and everything on it. But take that. And so with the one with a little bit of pink in it, I think was the one we chose. But so it's one of the helmets that Valentino had given us as a present.
Wouldn't be a farm.
Signed. So we drive around. It's all autographed and like, thanks, Alex. And Ellen's got that on and she's on the back. So it's kind of fun.
Wouldn't be a farm without ride-on mowers and quad bikes and things. You also have a Mahindra tractor.
Yeah.
And proudly adorned on the back of the seat is the 46, the Valentino Rossi.
Yeah, well, it just fits perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's like a race plate. So, I've got on the back of the mower and the tractor and a couple of spots in the garage, I've got old stickers that were, that didn't fit something or I've stolen from work or whatever, I've got them plastered around. The real McCoy stickers on the back of the tractor, which got used today, which you know about.
Yeah, I do. Mate, it's been super to talk to you, to walk down memory lane. We spent 2 hours doing that, and I'm sure we could spend another 2 hours.
We haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh, mate.
You're going to have to edit this down. I don't know how you're going to do that.
No, we'll be right. It'll be a couple of parts that people will thoroughly enjoy. Can I encourage you to finish this with maybe a tip for youngsters, men and women, that are perhaps, into racing. Maybe they're not ever going to be a world champion karter or motorcycle racer, but they might want to follow a path like yours. What would be the tip when you've spoken about this to those people? What would you tell them?
Yeah, lots of kids sometimes. Well, I've been to a few talks and people have asked, well, how do I get into that? What's the path? I don't know that there's a particular way to get into it. I mean, a lot now is. I think the first thing to do is just go to your local race with a friend. Find somebody that you can help, because essentially, as a mechanic, what you're doing is helping. You're helping this racer go racing. You're helping the bike. You want to give him a bike that's stuck together okay. So that's what your job is, helping. So just go and help somebody. That's the way to do it. And don't listen to a careers advisor. I wouldn't advise that. Don't worry about your spelling. Most important thing is getting on with people. Listen to your rider and the people. Just listen and do your work. It's if you enjoy it, it's not hard.
Particularly if you're passionate about it. If you're into it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I was never like. It's hard to. I'm not a fanatic, I actually think people that are fanatical aren't the best at being a race mechanic. If you're fanatical, I think you
overthink it or overdo it.
Yeah, overthink it also can be a bit dangerous, because you think you know everything. You definitely don't know everything, and you're never going to. And I think to get away from racing is really good too. So you have to be involved. You should, in my opinion, be involved in as many things as you can, because lots of ideas come from other avenues. So you'll be thinking about something, or you have another problem, and it triggers your idea for racing or for the idea to fix something. So if you just got your head buried in the one thing, you won't see enough to be able to fix it. Anyway, so I would say don't listen to your careers advisor. Help a friend, and if you enjoy it, just keep helping, and it'll take care of itself.
And use those skills to hot rod golf clubs. Go well with the game, mate. We are immensely proud of the time that you've spent overseas. I know you sort of just quietly compartmentalize that, but I mean, to be a part of all that, to be a cog in the machine and to contribute to that is just amazing. The longevity that you've had with it, and the fact that you're still, even though you've come full circle, that you still love it as much now, I think is tremendous. So thank you for talking to us.
It's been a pleasure. It's good. It's actually good because I've kind of gone down memory lane. It's only when you look back that you really realise what you've done. So this is good. Thanks.
Awesome.
Rusty's Garage is written and presented by me, Greg Rust. Series producer and editor is Alex Mitchell. Audio production by Darcy Thompson.
Listener.